that situation can still happen. You know, a student that is a sixth grader that is coming in that wants to, you know, really push themselves and go from sixth grade to eighth grade, if they can show that they can do that academically, they have the, you know, the possibility of and the pathway for that to happen.
Okay, so let's say you have someone who's 14 who should be in ninth grade, but they have to be in eighth grade. So would they be eligible then to be in the high school senate? Or would they have to be in the House of Representatives?
They would be in the House of Representatives first.
So I'm totally opposed to that. I'm just totally opposed to forcing them back in every respect, because academically they may have some problems. Plus, I don't even believe most of the time in lazy kids. I believe that most kids who fail academically, really fail academically, have learning problems or other serious kinds of problems. And now you're gonna leave them back in addition. I just think it's totally wrong. It doesn't have to be done. They can still retake all the courses, and not do this, the way we've always done it. And if the parents don't believe it, well, you can put it all in larger print and say, you must believe this, because that's the way it is.
Christy, you didn't get a chance to comment.
When I look at this, and it really does say bare minimum to me. I mean, we're looking at, to be considered a ninth grader, you don't have to have taken anything yet, you have to be eligible to take it.
Correct.
So I'm not thinking we're gonna lose many kids in that drop.
No.
And it's not in every class either, it's
Well, it's
two
all
total
more reason
credits.
not to do it.
No,
Just one or
it's two
To me-
total credits, so we're looking at, you know, they could be, you know, passing or ready to take English and history and not with math and science, but they're still gonna be a ninth grader, because 2 of the 4 have been met.
Right. I mean, in many cases, what we find is that, you know, students that are now repeating a class, or you know, they're repeating it for the second time or even the third time, now they've become disruptions in class. Because now they tend to act up.
Well, they shouldn't be repeating classes 3 times, or even 2.
I would agree with that. Then, you
And
know,
so
then it is saying,
that we've made them do that. That's
or,
been on us,
or
not on
that,
them.
or it is also that, you know, they are, not, you know, wanting to take advantage of the academic standards that we are trying to have for the school.
Well, they may not be capable of it, and we're trying to force them year after year to do the same thing, and they can't do it ever. And we're still making them redo it and
Let's see
redo
Matt's
it.
comment, and then, go ahead, Matt.
So I have a couple things. First of all, I'm curious about what our objective is. Are we voting on this, or are we just talking about it, or what is it that, what's our plan?
This is its first presentation to the board. I don't know whether it was intended to be voted on as an announcement.
My intention was for it to be voted on in August.
Okay, so I guess my second comment then is, I think everybody that's got something to say has been heard. Greg can take the feedback and go modify the plan as he sees fit, as the person who's responsible for it. And then voting in August is a long time from now, and there can be feedback and there can be discussion. Finally, I guess my thought on this is, and I'm not an educator, I don't pretend to be one, I don't play one on television, right? But some of us get that. That's cool. I love that. But it seems to me that in an academic institution, you're judged and graded by your academics. It's not a social club, with all due respect. Right? So if you've not achieved, like if someone said to me, Matt, you're going to be a vice president by the time you're 40 years old. Well, I hit 40 and I'm a giant doofus. They're not going to make me a vice president just because I'm 40 and let me run with the vice presidents and use the executive washroom because I'm a doofus, right? So
Yeah, but they are going to let you, have a social life with people that are 40 years old. They're not going to prevent you. They're not going to force you to go and be with people who are 30 or 20.
in the workplace, I want to be with people who are vice presidents.
But
Barbara, you wanted to make a comment?
I just wanted to say one thing. When you're talking about students that might have a learning disability or something, I would think that in regards to this, your IEP would kick in and help them and to maintain, to be with their social grade,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, I mean, so, what we are finding, I've analyzed the students, most of the students that would be affected by this. They are not the students that are being held back because of IEPs or 504s. Because those students, are working with student services, and getting that help. It is students that, have a lot of failures, and talking to their teachers and looking at their grade books, is because they do not do any work, whether at home or in the classroom. They sit back, they fool around, they do not make any effort to do anything. And it starts in middle school. It's not something that pops up 3 or 4 years down the road. And so that's why trying to have it, take effect in 7th grade, and to kind of, light that motivation, say, hey, listen, you can't, be at the school and keep retaking all of your classes for 3 straight years and be an 8th grader and take all 6th grade classes. You don't want to be in that situation, and we don't want you to be in that situation. You need to step it up, and do the work, and so that you can keep progressing and get to the point where you can, either be successful here or be at the point where you're going to be successful, at another school if that's what you choose to do at high school.
I have a
So-
question, not a comment.
I want to make a comment first, then I'll allow you to ask questions. As I think of this isn't for students that are struggling a little bit and they're a little bit behind and they need to brush up and have a little bit of tutoring to catch up. And if I analogize this to a day at work, this is sitting at your desk at noon with 8 hours of work to do and you're leaving at 5. No matter, you cannot get it done from here, 8 hours of work in 5 hours of your day. And so if you allow that to happen, you're gonna start tomorrow working till noon on yesterday's work. And then you'll start that day's work and you'll finish 3 hours of it before the end of the day, and you'll be 5 hours behind. And this will keep cascading to where it can never be recovered. The only time it can be recovered is right at the beginning when it's still sizable enough to fix it. And if we're an institution with rigorous academic standards, promoting someone through the process when they are not on a path to graduate is robbing them.
Amen.
And they'll get to the point at 12th grade where they're so far behind in this that they give up on themselves because it's unreachable now. It's an unattainable goal. When somebody sits down and says, we put you on a path, you're here in 10th grade, try your best, but it doesn't really matter, you're not going to get there in the end in 2 years anyway. What a catastrophe.
That's not
Fix
what
it at
I'm
the beginning.
arguing for, though. That's not at all what I'm arguing for. A student should have to take over any class that he doesn't succeed in. But students are children, and they have a social life here. This is the only social life they have, other than, whatever they have with their families. And so we are not making it easier for them academically by just letting them be with their own age group in certain situations. But when you demote them a whole grade, then you're taking away what might be the most important thing to them in the whole school for no particular reason, because they still would have to do the work. It's not promoting them academically, it's just allowing them to be with the kids their own age.
So, I get it. I want to hear Christy's comment, Matt's comment, and then I want to respect Matt's earlier comment, which is that everybody's probably been heard that.
That's my new comment.
That's your new comment too. All right, Christy's.
So mine is a question. How would this be communicated to a student? Would it be on their report card at the end of the year? You're promoted
No.
to 9th grade, or?
A student that would not be promoted, student services would meet with the family, would meet with the student and the parents, to be able to go through and, okay, so this is why. And so that, a plan can be brought up. you know, much more emphasized that, okay, you know, if you want to get back on track, you know, here's the way to do it. And, you know, the earlier that it gets caught, the easier that becomes, because it's now, you know, it's not just, you know, you know, it could be one or two things that you need to do to, you know, to step it up a little bit, rather than get to the point where it's, you know, it's been happening for 3 or 4 years, and, you know, and it comes to the question of, well, you know, will you be able to meet all the requirements by the time you're 21?
So I agree with that thing. I would recommend though adding on the report card that says you are been promoted to, and that's what they did in younger grades too. And so you still have the meeting with the whole family, to your point, so that it's not a surprise when the report card comes out on a Saturday that my kid, you know, is not going into 9th grade. But I think they need that piece too. And that's how they do it all through, you know, at least elementary grades, it would say at the bottom.
Honestly, I'm not sure if our software is able to do that.
We don't have.
Very quickly on that point, I think that by the time it's on the report card, it's by the point anyway. I mean, the communication, if this does go into process, needs to be educated with the parents and the students ASAP so that it doesn't end up on the report card.
Right, yeah, this would not be something that student services waits until June to talk about. You know, when we go through each quarter, all teachers send a list of students to student services, you know, of the students that are not making mastery in their courses. It is easy for myself and student services to take a look and, you know, do a grade search and see the list of all students that have, you know, say C's, D's, and F's in a class, you know, for, you know, once the report cards have gone out. And so we can see the students that are, you know, that after the first quarter, that is running the risk of this. And they can, you know, meetings can happen then, so that there, some intervention at that point, rather than waiting until the very end of the year and say, oh, well, you know, you didn't pass Algebra 1 like you're supposed to. And the parents are like, this is the first that we've heard of it.
So don't you do that anyway? I mean,
Yes.
if a student, even the way we do it now, don't you let them know before the end of the year that they're having trouble with several classes? And
Yes.
can't you say to them that if, you know, if you won't be able to graduate if you don't, you know?
Yes, but
Yeah.
as you said, they are children. They don't, in many cases, they do not look long-term.
So this will make them look long-term.
Yes, yes.
With all due respect to you, Matt, I don't like you saying that to me.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd like to be free to talk as much as I want to at these meetings.
I can say as a parent of some high schoolers and some almost high schoolers that even when things are communicated to you and then some time goes by and the kids progress a little bit and you see, okay, well, Anthony got moved from this grade to that grade, he must have satisfied those requirements. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put him in 10th grade or 8th grade from Jane, whatever the kids are. And so it isn't always as plain and simple as somebody had a meeting with me and told me something once, because time moves on and you think, well, things improved or they didn't, and I didn't hear any more, or there's no feedback, or maybe I'm supposed to ask, or let me check my kids on Power School and see what's going on. It's not that easy to figure out these kinds of things. And having a situation, frankly, some of the questions that I had were more technical in nature, like when you start with 9th grade, and I'm glad we're kind of at the high school level looking at that, but if I'm in starting 9th grade and I'm eligible to take 2 of these credits, when I get to 10th grade, I have to have 4.5 credits.
That's correct.
So if I start 9th grade only eligible to take 2 classes.
No, that's for those core classes, but then you've also got fine arts, you have technology, you've got foreign language, you've got other classes.
Okay.
So most students are taking 7 classes and plus this study hall.
7 credits is a full high school
Yes.
curriculum? Okay, so that helps out with that. The next question though, even at 10th grade, I've got to have 4.5 credits already by 10th grade.
Yes.
Now, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade's all I got left, and that 4.5 done in the bag, I need 21.5 That's more than 7 a year for 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Well, because you've got 1/2 credit for the senior project.
Okay, excellent. That answers my question on that one. When you get to 12th grade and you've got 18 and a half completed, you're still 7 and a half away right there. So that's still counting on that senior project to be able to get you over that.
And students can take more than 7 credits.
Minimum
So
standard, right?
it's set, it's give.
No, I know, but I want to make sure there's still enough room for people to.
Yes, there's room for students to take 8 in high
8.
school.
8 is the
Yes.
maximum number that they can take without submissions,
8.
and that's a lot for a kid that's been struggling.
Right. I mean, so with a study hall, with a normal built-in study hall, they can take 7. We've got a number of students that will do, say, PE outside of school. They'll take out, credits that way. Maybe they're on a sports team, something like that. Also, some will take, a VLAX class, like they'll take a 1 semester health class. And do that during the summer. And so then they'll be able to chip off a couple of classes that way.
I want to also compliment you for thinking about and integrating the sequence of classes, because sometimes I can take 8 credits, but I can't take 4 math at a time.
That's, yes.
And
I mean, I noticed, one thing that I looked at was Pinkerton's, Pinkerton has something like this. They don't have it where it is broken up like this. They have it that, the college system where you have to have this number of credits and you only be considered a 10th grader, this number of credits and this number of credits. They don't take into account, something like this where at 12th grade, if you haven't passed Algebra 1, you can't pass Algebra 2. So which means then, and you can't take probability and statistics, and you can't take geometry, which means that you can't pass. It makes it impossible.
one of the things that I would suggest that would round out this document nicely for me is after the 12th grade criteria here, there was the to graduate criteria. 26 credits, these English,
Yeah.
these math, these.
Yeah, so
Right here, so you can follow that next step and see how that.
The
fits
idea
into
is
the
that
final target.
this would go into the program of studies and it would go right with that checklist. We have that checklist that is in the program of studies that is published. This would not be an internal document. This would be a published document for students to see.
Yep.
For
But even
parents
as
to
a
see.
standalone document, and I know that it is available elsewhere, but even just summarizing it right here as the last final bit of this progression, so that it's the target that everybody's aiming for, is my thought.
Okay.
With that, I want to hear about 8th and 7th grade, if there's no burning questions by folks for discussion. Let's hear about 8th and 7th grade.
So 8th and 7th grade, would be very similar. In terms of 8th grade, we've got the four typical core classes, American Literature 1, U.S. History 1, Math 3, Science 2, those are what we would consider typical 8th grade classes. So again, they would be eligible to take or have already taken if they're advanced students, at least 2 of those courses. They would also still have art, music, there are other courses as well that they would be taking. Also, that they'd be expected to pass writing lab, and then on the sheet that I gave out, they would also need to pass geography. Those are both 6th grade classes, which means that if they don't pass them in 6th grade, they still have 7th grade to pass them. But we're finding with some of those courses that we've got students that are, again, not doing the work. We had, I can say, at least one student that has taken geography now 3 times, and it refuses to do work. And so, and it is not someone that has, that has any academic difficulties. It is motivation. And which means that when they're in class, they're talking with their friends, they're fooling around. And it gets to the point where, you start collecting some of those students and they all end up in the same class. And it becomes disruptive to the other students now. And it becomes a problem. We want to make sure that, a student, does need to take, take writing lab a second time, or take geography a second time, or even a 3rd time. Because the geography is only a 1 semester course, fine. you know, but they need, these are students that need that little extra reason for passing these courses, and not just, because otherwise they're not going to. They're just gonna say, no, I don't want it.
Can I ask about the one who took geography 3 times? Did he have to take anything else over again too?
Yes.
3 times?
Well, I mean, in this case, because geography is a one-semester class, they took it once in 6th grade, failed it. Took it first semester of 7th grade, got an F again. So because they had a study hall, put them into it for the 2nd semester of 7th grade, still did not do any work.
So, he failed everything? Geography.
More than just geography. It is not just one class.
I just feel that from the pedagogical point of view, it's wrong to make a student sit in the same class for 3 times. There's gotta be, even if it's, I don't even believe, I don't know why the student did that, I don't know why he was, but what good has it done for that student? Nothing, it's terrible.
It was the alternative, letting them not get a passing grade in geography.
Well,
Just go on.
if he has some strength somewhere else, an interest in something
Well,
else,
they have
I'd
some
rather
else.
have an advance in that thing and forget geography.
Well,
Than make him do
then-
geography 3 times.
But if they are strong in another subject, they do advance in that other subject.
Yeah, but advance and forget the geography then. Let them do things, get far ahead of things they're good at and that they enjoy and that they're interested in, and forget something that's not that important anyway.
Wow.
So I'm not necessarily completely on board with the point that you're making, but I do want to make sure we talk about it and comment on the idea that if we've got a student that has been through a class a time or 2 and isn't doing the work, or 3 and isn't doing the work or isn't engaged, I don't want this minimum standard thing to be our only tool to try to reach that kid and figure out
Exactly.
what's the different strategy that we can come up with, because like you, I don't believe in lazy kids. Somehow you're not reaching them, or there's no connection, or
That's true.
for some reason the kid believes that it's okay to ignore
Or
the
there's a
teaching.
million things going on outside of school that we don't even know about, or whatever.
Yeah, and so, and I don't know what those are, this isn't the place to discuss all those kinds of things, but I want to make sure that we are not just sort of letting a kid go through a class 3 times without figuring out other ways to reach that kid if we can. And it may be that, yeah, there's no answer, there's no textbook answer, there's no go-to answer, every kid's gonna be a little different, every situation's gonna be a little different, but I never wanna stop trying. I never wanna stop trying to reach a kid like that and make sure that we're doing the best that we can to make sure that they get that
And if you
education.
think leaving him back is gonna be the magic trick, good luck.
You know, like Matt, I'm not playing teacher on TV either. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, or any other commercials that you want to refer to. I'm not willing to talk about a subject and say that X subject isn't that important or Y subject isn't that important. I think there's the reasons that all these things are built into a core curriculum, and their expectations that to have
State
a
standards.
general high school education, you need to accomplish a number of these things. Everybody's path can be a little bit different. You've got electives, you've got choices you can make about whether you're focusing in one direction or another, but on some elemental level, a certain amount of math, a certain amount of English, a certain amount of history, a certain amount of science needs to be built into the package somewhere. But I don't want to ever get to a situation where we just say, well, we tried it again, didn't work, sticking around again, tried it again, didn't work. There's got to be some special effort to intervene in those things, figure it out. That's separate from necessarily this minimum standards. Mr. McKenzie, you want to continue the presentation, or we got 7th grade?
And then 7th grade is, again, the same idea, just taking into account the core section, the core subject areas, English 2, history 2, math 2, science 2. Again, you know, it would be that they would need to, you know, be at level or above for at least 2 of those courses.
Thank you for the entire presentation. You didn't point out the one line that was different from our two versions.
In eighth grade, on here, it just has right and left. I have the right and left and geography on the sheet that I did. So they just need to pass, in terms of right and left and geography, they just need to pass, which means they need to get a C- or above.
Wow.
And so, because those are not, those would not be considered prerequisites for any other courses. So they just need to have a passing grade. So again, it's not that they need to have A's, or even B's in those classes, but they need to have, be able to show competency in those classes.
Thank you for putting this all together and fielding some challenging questions from us as we work through it. It's not an easy topic to discuss or to figure out. And somewhere there's the right balance for us to figure out how we maintain a school that's academically rigorous, but socially beneficial to the kids with all of the different things that we have going on with it. And if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any questions from members of the board? Matt? Or Craig? Thank you very much for that. So we're still partially through the dean's report.
Yes, and as you can see, based on that topic, just how lively our scheduling committee meetings are in terms of different. But good to have the discussion, and I know you've been waiting for some time to present that. We'd like to thank student ambassadors who escort new and shadowing students. I maintain an ambassadors club whereby students join because they are very eager to show the school to new students, transferring students, shadowing students, and special guests maybe visiting the school. Every time I put out an all points bulletin that we have a student shadowing or a new student, immediately to the club, students immediately come back with, I want to do it. I want to show them around. I will be there at 7:20 in the morning. I will, I have this thing class. It's incredibly heartening. They truly enjoy it, and the pride they take in their school is very impressive. So I definitely want to mention that club and the good work that they do, making great impressions. And the feedback we get from the students who shadow, and the new students, and the parents that have their students come in, is what a great experience they had. Coming into a school, meeting with students who can show them from class to class, introduce them to teachers, and eat with them at lunch. So congratulations to those student ambassadors. Also, Ms. Dougherty, I want to thank. She coordinated the 8th grade step-up ceremony, which we had on June 6th. And it was great to see so many members of the 8th grade there to get official recognition of stepping up into 9th grade. And Ms. Dougherty, who made her debut in event planning, did a fantastic job. So more to come, I'm sure, for her on that note.
Rachel Sampo was also part of that presentation, our student of the quarter, the third quarter. She spoke to the young kids.
True, as were you, giving out certificates, so
Yeah,
thank
well,
you.
I didn't have to say anything.
Yes, right, she did work with student senators, and that was all part of her theme, was to not make it so much a goodbye as it was a welcome to high school, and she did a great job with the students. Ms. Ephraimson and Mr. Quigley for coordinating the end-of-year convocation assembly. I attached to my Dean's report the 10 most memorable events of the school year. It's a slideshow that was also done at that convocation, so you may want to take a look. One of the most memorable moments was the PTSA and all the good work that they've done this year, as well as the field trips the students took, charter renewal and our 5th birthday, and the murals that have certainly donned our hallways. So, I want to thank all of those who have made the year a great one. It is very hard to believe that the year is at a conclusion, and I'm going to wrap up by just again wishing all the luck and best of everything in the world to the 12 graduates of the Founders Academy, and special thanks to their parents as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Mooney. Thank you for the 8th grade step-up ceremony. I was present for with this and handing out certificates. That was a great moment that you mentioned in your report, as well as the graduation. And so I've had a chance to participate in those couple of items, and what a great founders moment for both of those groups of kids. Any other questions for Dean Moody as a result of her report? With that in mind, what I'd like to do is use the prerogative of the chair to rearrange an item on our agenda so that one of our guests here can offer their presentation and get on with their day. And so what I'd like to do is move item 7A, which is the presentation by Nathan Wexler and Company, up to right after item 3 and address it right now. So, over. You're up.
For those of you that, excuse me, don't know who I am, I'm Ashley Major. I'm a manager with Nathan Wexler and Company, and I have been working with Founders Academy to complete their financial statement audit for the past, I think, this will be my 6th audit that I will be completing. So I have handed out a required communication. So basically everything I'm going to go over tonight is mostly required communications that were required by our standards to have with the board of directors of an organization. So if you can flip to the table of contents, the discussion outline, we're going to go over the client service team, management and the board's responsibilities for an audit, the audit objectives and really what our responsibilities are, the overall audit strategy, our primary focus areas, and then an audit timeline for you. So page 4 has all of the client service teams. So this is the whole team from Nathan Wexler that will be working with and for Founders. The team is very similar to the prior year, so I've introduced myself as the manager. Stephanie Gray is the supervising senior. She was previously Convar, recently married, and Kelly DeMore is the engagement shareholder. We also have a high quality standard, so we have a quality control shareholder and then a quality tax shareholder. And this year we are pleased to add an intern, Jack Anand, to our team for this audit. Overall management's, oh, and I should say our contact information is on that slide, so if any board members have any questions, comments, concerns, we always appreciate and say feel free to reach out to any of us at any time that you want. Management's responsibilities for preparing for the audit. Basically the financial statements are the organizations. The only thing that belongs to Nathan Wexler and Company in that financial report is the opinion page to say that what management has provided for the financial statements is reasonably accurate in a material way. So with that, management must maintain and establish internal controls over the financial reporting process, ensure compliance with laws and regulations, safeguard the organization's assets, select appropriate accounting principles, use reasonable judgments on accounting estimates, make sure all financial records are provided to us as the audit firm, record all adjustments should we have adjustments that arise as part of the audit, and then also confirm with a letter of representation that everything given to us during the audit is true. So you have the heavy lifting, and we have some pretty heavy lifting, but overall our audit objectives as an audit firm will be to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance. So we need to know whether within a material judgment factor, your financial statements are free from material misstatement, whether it's caused by error or fraud, although an audit is not designed to find fraud. Obtain a sufficient understanding of the organization's internal controls to plan the audit. So we last week completed what we call our audit planning fieldwork. We came out for a day. We went through all of the systems and the controls around the accounting process. And from that, we plan based on a risk-based approach. So say there's an area that the controls aren't as strong, we might look at that a little bit closer and design some different procedures based on that. Or if there's a change in the current year, something different.
One quick question, if I can ask you while we're on it, because I'm
Yeah.
trying not to forget it. Do you specifically look at a different spot each year where you have looked at a 5 years in a row? Is there a specific opportunity to go look at each different section?
Yes, so for the internal controls, we study everything. And then for the financial statements, we always look at material areas. And that there's a formula that we use for that. And then we're required every year to incorporate an element of unpredictability into our audit. So a part of that process is we sit down as an audit team with an outside individual from the firm, and it's called a brainstorming meeting. And we go over all the controls, all of the risk areas, say, or even thoughts of the board. And we take that and we design usually 2 to 3 different tests that are different from year to year, and items that we're looking at. It just depends on what pops in any given year. Say you had more credit card transactions in the current year because you were doing purchasing a little bit differently, we would maybe test that. Or a board member asked for some sort of analytic on spending per pupil, you might do a test like that, and those are some of the things we've done in the past.
Excellent, thank you.
And we'll report back to you at the end of the audit what those tests were.
Great, thank you.
We are communicating our responsibilities to you in relation to the audit and establishing an understanding of the terms of the audit. Like I said, we provide an overview of the overall audit strategy and plan scope and timing of the audit. So the basic things we'll be looking at. We inquire with those charged with governance about different risks of the statement, fraud risks, other items. So I pass out, when we started, a questionnaire for board members. We send that to either selection or all, and then I also had a call with the treasurer just yesterday, I think. And then like I said, if any other board members have anything they'd like to bring to our attention, you all have our contact information. Then at the end of the audit, we communicate with management regarding any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses identified during the audit. So this is any holes in the controls that we think rise to those 2 levels. We work with management to issue timely financial statements and tax returns. So the financial statement is currently due to the state by September 30th. So that's been our goal, and we've met that. So we'll be back, I think, at the September board meeting to present that financial statement and hopefully get it approved for that deadline. And then the tax return, the Form 990 is due November 15th, but there is an opportunity for a 6-month extension on that, should it be needed. As an audit firm, we have to maintain our independence with respect to the school, so limited periods and in fact, and that's part of our standards as an audit firm, as a professional code of conduct, as a CPA, in order to perform an audit. So I couldn't sit on your board and also do the audit, and there's many other precluding items. And also ensuring that governance is kept informed if anything should come up during the audit in a timely manner. So in order to accomplish this, our strategy for the audit is we consider all things current and prior year. We've done a current preliminary analytical review too to see if there's any big fluctuations in the numbers. We look at inherent risk within the school. So there's certain items that just inherently are more risky. One item that pops into mind to explain that would be cash. Having cash around, always risky. A continual assessment of materiality. So what would be important to a user financial statement? Who is using your financial statement? So $5 because you're not going to be the bank covenant by that, not that you have one. Or is it really more like, $10,000, $15,000 because it looks at your overall budget size and it's based on a decision maker using your financials. So at what point would the state maybe pull your charter if there was a mistake of that magnitude? Then any recently issued and effective accounting and financial reporting principles, which I have some in the back there for us. Any changes in accounting policies, procedures, personnel, the control environment, and then also the computer environment, the information systems that you use. So pretty in-depth overall look of everything. So our primary areas of focus, and this is based on materiality, although we look pretty much at everything. Your revenue recognition, so making sure your state aid, summer school tuition, contributions to donor restrictions are all properly recorded in the proper period. And that also goes along with your receivables and any allowances. So at year end, you typically have your large state aid receivable, so making sure that's properly recorded. Cash, we confirm all your account balances with your financial institutions. Fixed assets, we trace material additions to invoices And we also make sure that items that are expensed are properly expensed and shouldn't be capitalized and vice versa. Page 11, accounts payable, we perform subsequent event procedures. So we look at the items that are paid after year end to make sure that they were either included in accounts payable or excluded properly. Net assets, so these would really be your restricted funds. We test those to make sure they're properly recorded. Look at the internal controls, as I said, and then we also evaluate related party transactions for disclosure. And we will report back on all of those items in September with our results and findings or no findings. Our overall audit timeline is on page 12. So we're in June. As I mentioned, we developed our audit strategy. We've determined the nature of our testing. I'm meeting with those charged with governance. We will start in July with our substantive testing. So this is our field work. This is where we spend about a week on site. That will occur, I think, starting on July 8th. It's the week after the 4th of July week. And that will kind of go into August because there's quite a bit that needs to happen. As I mentioned, we'll present the draft of the financial statements in September, meet with you to report back, and we'll release that final audit statement and opinion. And then from there in October and November, we will work on the 990 tax return. At this point, I want to highlight one major change that will occur with your financial statements this year. So in the past, the Founders Academy financial statements have been consolidated with the Founders Foundation financial statements because Founders Foundation board was controlled by members of Founders Academy board, and under our standards, those two needed to be combined. In the current year, the board makeup of the foundation has shifted, and Founders Academy is no longer that controlling interest of the Founders Foundation board. So the Academy financial statements will be presented standalone this year, just as the Academy, and not consolidated with the foundation. So it'll look a little bit different, but it'll be more simplistic, I think, then. The next two pages are our peer review certificate. So as a CPA firm, we undergo a peer review on a rotating cycle. It's basically an audit of our audits. And this just says that we had a clean opinion on our peer review on the last cycle. And then finish up quickly, page 15 and on are new accounting and tax updates that are on the horizon. Most of these are GASB, or FASB, I should say, so financial standards. As a charter school, you're a public organization, so governmental, you fall under GASB. Although because you are a nonprofit, it's somewhat quasi. So I included all of these here in case you serve on other boards and had an interest or needed some bedtime reading. But the one standard that is being implemented by both is the leases standard. So GASB has actually converged to implement that at the same time. It's effective for years ending 6/30/2021. And it's very rare that GASB implements something at the same time as FASB. And this standard really says that if you have a lease, a long-term lease, that the asset now gets reported on the books of the organization that's leasing, as well as a liability for those future lease payments. So it looks more like a purchase with debt than just an operating lease on your income statement. So that'll be a pretty big change coming down the line for 2021. Any questions?
I'm glad you're doing it.
Great. So you know how to get a hold of me if you do have questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes item 7A on our agenda. Let's resume our agenda with item number 4, which would have been next normally. That's our faculty representatives report.
Thank you, thank you. I first want to say it's been a pleasure and it's been an honor to try to serve as the faculty representative here Founders this year. It was nice. It was nice to be able to see the inner working in a way that I hadn't been viewing as a teacher, as a faculty member. And I think it's important to have this voice at the table going forward, so that's great. I did want to point out something quickly. I won't stay too long on it, but I think it's important because of our mission. And because personally, I cannot say enough about the leadership portion of this mission of the school. I think realistically speaking, as a faculty member here, I'm not sure that, probably should be saying this, but that the faculty understands, all the faculty understands the importance of that unique leadership mission. And going forward next year, I really am going to try personally to do more, to be out in front, trying to point out why the leadership mission is important. So Core 4, which is the highest level core here at Founders, has a pretty rigorous final exam. It's long. And first is the concert, where they're graded on the concert performance. Then they have to have a jury, which is they have to take excerpts of examples of music that we've practiced. They don't get the example to sing back to me. They get examples that we work on in class in a new sheet. In the jury, they have to sight sing rhythm and melody, okay? And the third portion is, of course, a written final exam, theoretical and music theory. How much are they really getting of this? So when I sat down to do the music theory portion very late in the year, it was the last week of school, I think, we worked a little work. I had the tests out, and then I saw an email come in from Kevin Tellier, who's the chair of the Fine Arts. And in this email message, she said, so I please would like you to ask a question on your exams. And the question was, what does leadership look like in chorus? Wow. Okay, I had my exam out, the kids have it, they're working on the exam, all right, and I gotta get this in here somehow. Absolutely not a word of discussion about it. Okay, after they finish the exam, I said, okay, turn your papers over, guys. And you're gonna write for me a thoughtful few sentences on what does leadership look like in chorus 4. And I having done music my whole life, having performed at a very high level, having been teaching it for 30 plus years, music means a lot to me, music and culture. But I have to tell you, I don't think in all the time here at Founders, anything moved me more than the responses these kids gave to this question. I could not believe it. I'm going to read a couple of them for you because I think they prove without a test, right? Because nobody was sitting there asking them to say specifics. They were asked a cold question out of nowhere. And I think their answers demonstrate why leadership is important. It's not a catchphrase. It really is important. So all 14 kids answered. All 14 gave in-depth questions. And what I sent off, I sent it to Kevin to see right after it. I was like, oh my God, these are so great. I typed them up immediately after the exam and sent them to Kevin verbatim. And I'm gonna send this attachment because we should have it out there somewhere that people can read this in specificity. I won't read them all. So one student says, leadership in chorus is taking charge of your vocal part and being accurate and loud when you hear someone who is not completely sure about their part. You need to help people when they are not sure. Number 2, chorus leadership is being strong in vocal technique and being a role model to the younger chorus members. I love helping teach them music theory and getting to know them. It is cool when they look up to me as a student leader. Number 3, in chorus 4, we have to be responsible for learning and remembering our parts. We have to be courageous and determined to learn our parts. We also have to be helpful to those who help with what we are learning, whether music or theory. Leadership in chorus is a lot of things. Leadership is being hardworking and responsible enough to memorize your part. Leadership is being strong with your part and not being afraid to make a mistake. Leadership is working with members of the chorus and the conductor to make the best music you possibly can. Remember another one. I use responsibility and honesty to make sure I know my music, and when I do not, I ask for help. What does it mean to be a leader in chorus class? In chorus class, leaders are the students who are not afraid to sing out in order to learn their part. They help lead their section as well as support those when they are afraid of making mistakes. It takes good leadership qualities to develop good responsibility in showing up for concerts, rehearsals, and other events on time. They will not complain about something when they have to do something. They are willing to step up to the challenge. All the students performing also show great leadership because they are willing to be up in front of people to perform what they've learned. Especially soloists have great leadership qualities because they are leading a part by themselves. All 14 of these were like, I fell out of my chair. Do you know what? Academics are important. I really believe that. I believe social is important. But I believe that our schools schools are failing this component of fostering true leadership in our students. And here Founders Academy is doing this work every single day. And nothing, in my mind, is more important for when our students leave this facility and have to go out on their own in that big old world out there with an understanding of what it is to be empathetic, to help, to take up a challenge you might be nervous about, and to not have fear. And in my mind, there's no other school I would want to teach at, because this is as good as it gets, folks. And I really believe that we should be trying to foster that in between faculty to student, faculty to faculty. Totally not talked about, and I'm going to bring it up this year, because our students see how we react to each other. They see how we communicate with each other. We are living leadership examples. So it goes faculty to student, faculty, student to student, and how important this is. So I just want to say thank you, because you know what, this lit up all 3 years here at Founders, and I wouldn't have experienced that if I had not been able to work here. So I want to thank you for that opportunity. And that's my spiel.
Thank you for your report. I've always found myself taking a little bit of everybody's passion that I'm around with and learning from it and making it a part of me and making myself a better person by absorbing the passions of the people around me. And boy, have you got some. You're one of those people that the folks around you are going to feed off of that passion. And you will touch all those lives and change everybody's personality just a little bit. And we're all kind of that conglomeration of all the people that have touched us that way. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the passion. And if there's